Just saw a video, couldn't stitch it, of a career coach explaining that boomers want to keep working, and like during the pandemic, a lot of them sat at home and were sad and realized that they wanted to keep working.
Retirement in the US is not working, but there's a really obvious way to fix it.
If you really think about it, a retirement age of 65 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Listen to me.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Welcome back.
So a big issue right now in like basically the political financial space is not, well, it is tariffs, but the biggest one right now is retirement. Mm-hmm. They want to cut Social Security a lot, which was really needed for retirements. If you don't have like 401k and stuff, and also financial economy stuff is actually ruining your 401ks as well. So retiring is looking pretty hard for people in our generation, looking hard for millennials and stuff like that. So
especially the wages are so low, and then people are getting fired left and right.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard to maintain like a good retirement fund. And then you have emergencies, and sometimes people have no other choice but to pull out from the 401k and all of that. So yeah, retirement crisis is real right now.
For real. They didn't think ahead when they made all this mess, really, for real.
Yeah, because a lot of people are going to be stuck working till they die at this point, and they're not going to be able to retire at a good age.
It sucks.
It really does.
If you really think about it, a retirement age of 65 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Listen to me, you need to be retiring as soon as you can. There is propaganda trying to convince you that because you are going to be living longer thanks to modern science, that you should continue to work well past the age of 65. Why? To pay bills? When are you going to enjoy your life? You need to save as much as you can so that you can retire as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to be old, graying, everything hurts, and you are working for a billionaire that has yachts. Not just one, but many. We are working for billionaires that have seen everything and done everything, and that's why they're all going to space and building these like doomsday bunkers to hoard all that money so that we can keep working and working until we die. Do not be convinced that you need to be working in your late 60s, 70s, 80s. For most of human existence, we've only ever worked 15 hours a week.
If you
For real.
Exactly.
Because it was that one dude that was part of Doge for a second, and then he got dropped legit the day that Trump was inaugurated. Mm-hmm. He said, when he was trying to get elected for president, he said that they should raise the age for retirement. Older people should be working. You don't need to not be working at a certain age. And that's ridiculous. They really just want to milk us of all we're worth. Because I've seen so many old people working out these minimum wage jobs because they cannot afford nothing.
Exactly. And it's really sad.
Very sad.
And I feel like the people that are retired and really old, like they can always have the option to work if they want to. Because some people get bored. Like they want to do a part-time job or just volunteer, have something to do. Like that's cool and all.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that too. Some people would come in like, oh yeah, I have a lot of money. I like working.
Yeah.
It's an easy job to get, so I'm just going to be working here.
Exactly.
So like, it sucks.
Yeah, but they should all have the option to just retire and not have to be working like as many hours as they used to when they were young.
Exactly.
Insane.
So according to Fidelity, the average American needs $1 million to retire comfortably. Now, I know what you may be saying. Nate, $1 million is a lot of money. And I get it. If you're currently struggling to make ends meet, thinking about having to get $1 million on your hands to one day retire comfortably, it's a big task. It seems like it's something that's impossible. But really, $1 million is not a lot of money. And I don't say that to demean you and your financial situation. I just want to paint the reality of where we're at right now and where we're going. Because the unfortunate truth is that if you're not able to at least get $1 million on your hands by the age of 65, 70, you're not going to be able to retire. You're never going to be able to retire. And in my personal opinion, you're going to need a little bit more than $1 million because you and I both know inflation isn't going anywhere. The Federal Reserve said that it was going to be transitory. They said that it would come and it would go, and it would come and go quickly, but it hasn't. It's stuck around. And in fact, it's only getting worse. Today, for instance, I went to Chipotle And my bowl, which was smaller and tasted worse, was now $17. And if you're paying attention to the news, Big Macs at McDonald's are now $18. So I think we can both agree that this inflation problem is not being solved. And in fact, it's only going to get worse over time for a number of reasons that I could do separate videos on if you'd like. But since we know that inflation isn't going anywhere, and we know that it's only going to get worse as time progresses, that means you're gonna have to get this financial situation in order now. And you're going to have to do it aggressively. And you're going to have to do it with a lot of focus and determination. Because if not, the currency you do have is just going to be wiped away. You're not going to be able to keep up. And I don't want to be a fearmonger.
Like,
that's the last thing I want to do. I simply want to see less people struggle on a day-to-day basis. Because it's not like you created inflation. It's not like you're determining economic policy. It's not like you've created these supply chain bottlenecks. You are simply somebody who's trying to live a halfway decent life. I'm sure you're not asking for all that much in terms of finances. But unfortunately, even with this being the truth, unless you start planning for the future now and start planning aggressively, you're not going to get that $1 million. And if you don't, you're just not going to be able to keep up. If you want to learn how to put yourself in a better position, just drop a comment because I'd love to help. So
Truly, yeah, because they say you're gonna need $1 million to retire. By the time that we can retire, $1 million probably could be like nothing.
Exactly.
So-
It does not keep up with inflation.
It does not keep up. And it sucks most definitely because you got these billionaires who can just like chill on their money, but when we get to $1 million, it's like you don't have the money to do anything yet.
For real.
And like if someone says you need like a $50,000 job, you gotta save every penny to even for like 20 to 10 years to get to even close to $1 million, and by that time you're basically screwed.
Exactly. Because like the only thing, I guess the best thing that you can do to really just circumvent all of this is to keep your expenses as low as possible and just not have any debt. So like all of your, like every dollar can go towards the retirement and investing.
That's not a way to live.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that for a lot of people, especially if you went to college and got student loans and then like you're stuck with those, you're stuck with all the interest rates and all the other stuff. So like if you're not set up at a really young age for life, then it's just kind of like you just screwed.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like the rich people can like go to school without debt, and like they have a high start already right there.
Exactly.
Someone who needs like have money to get a good job. Want to become a doctor? Got to go to doctor school. Broke now, but your doctor, at least you're making more money.
Real.
Well, womp womp. Hey, guess what? Money's going up. Your debt's still going up too. Yeah, you're going to be able to pay it off faster than someone who got a business degree, but you're still kind of stuck, and it sucks.
But that's like, that just shows that going to college isn't always the best for everybody, because if you don't have money in the first place and you can just get like a minimum wage job and just try to make ends meet,
Yeah.
like maybe then too you could have enough to just invest and then pay like the bills that you have if you have really low expenses and no debt, and then that way the money that's coming in is still helpful and could get you there, but slowly.
And then I got people trying to pay for college with minimum wage jobs, and like, hey,
Yeah.
guess what? The college tuition's going up too. Have fun being stuck in that job forever.
Exactly. It's not fun.
It's not fun. It's just like every route that there used to exist is just gone now.
It really is.
Every single route, even in like the whole certification stuff, you still got to pay money for that too. Like, dang,
Yeah.
it's like everything sucks.
Certifications might be the best way to go because they're only like a couple $100 depending on what it is.
Yeah,
But it's still a lot, especially if you can't find a job off of it.
exactly.
Sucks.
Baby boomers report that they are not going to retire. They actually want to go to
This is already an issue and is going to continue to be a problem as we move into the next 5 to 10 years. I just did an interview actually talking about this subject, and so I was really excited to see this video. I wanted to stitch it because it's something that I recently spoke on. And what happened during the pandemic, and I think this had been happening for a while, but we really saw it happen during the pandemic, is boomers, you saw a lot of them retire because they did not want to work from home. So you saw a lot retire, but you also saw a lot who did stay. They did not want to retire. The older half of boomers really should already be retired at this point, but we're seeing a lot of barriers to that. And while they do carry the majority of the wealth, there's still too many of them who still need to work in some cases, and a lot of them want to work, as this article points out. They don't want to give up their jobs because they don't really have anything else, right? They don't know what else to do, so they're going to continue to work, especially the ones that don't have savings, that don't have investments that they can fall back on. They don't really have a choice in some cases. However, what also happened during the pandemic, and I see this with a lot of my clients, is the millennials specifically, although it's happened in other generations, they realized that they do not want to go into leadership. They realized that they wanted more work-life balance across the board, and they were seeing what was happening to people higher up. So one, they're dealing with people who aren't retiring. So it's very frustrating to be in that multi-generational workforce if you have certain people who are very rigid in how they think, and they're not willing to make accommodations and change the way that the world of work and the workplace is, right? And millennials are like, peace out, I'm done. I don't want any part of this. Just pay me to show up and do my job. They want to be individual contributors, which are not positions that are as abundant. And they don't want to move up. They don't want to do the people management. They don't want any of that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And again, I'm making generalizations. Obviously, it's not everybody. It's not every boomer. It's not every millennial. It's not every situation. Like, don't come at me for that. But it's worth noting that your oldest millennials are in their late 30s, and they've been grinding forever, ready for those leadership positions, and they're not there. Not even the middle management. I mean, some of them have opened up, but now you've got Gen X, right? They're not even getting into some of these higher level positions because they're not available. And so what's going to happen is if you're not creating that pipeline of leadership, then people are not going to want it. They're going to realize the stress. They're going to realize all of that. And the pandemic brought a lot of that to light for people, where they're like, I don't want stress. I don't want that. I just want to show up, do my job, and leave. Anyway, this is a little all over the place, but my point with that is it's going to be interesting in the next 10 years or so, if boomers are not going to retire, what the workplace is going to look like, because you really are going to have a lot of people in the individual contributor and possibly middle management with no place to go and being frustrated because they can't move up within their organization. So we'll see.
And that right there makes actually way more sense, because if you think about it, because what generation really cared a lot about people having college degrees going to workplaces?
Exactly.
And they're still there. Millennials like, hey, we realize if you have the skills, you really don't need a college degree. A lot of these like older generations still really care about, they know about work ethic is cool and all. They're all like, work ethic, pull bootstraps. You didn't go to college? That means you might be done. Like, they still lost in their old ways, and they got new people coming in who are good at leadership stuff. They don't want to be leaders because you guys are still here, and they don't want to deal with you guys, and they want to, work a regular life. But old people are like, oh, work for your job, die at your job, all that. It's like, it sucks.
Exactly. And a lot of them went to college to just become a well-rounded individual. And what they don't realize now is that we have so many more opportunities in them to like learn, like for education and to get jobs. Like, it's not all just having to be college. Like, we have a lot, sometimes a more quality education online and other sources.
For real. And so now we're like, we're stuck.
For you.
And is it their fault? A little bit. A lot, actually.
And at this point, if you can like just skip the college part in some way, that might set you ahead of other people by like decades, because you don't have to deal with being stuck in student loans and that interest rate forever. And you can actually afford to get a house and other things that you set your mind to.
Yeah. She really hates student loan debt if you didn't realize. She was talked down about the student loan debt in any way, shape, or form.
It's good if you can actually pay them off, but it just sucks because a lot of people are struggling now to pay them in any way. And like even the monthly payment is crazy, and a lot of people just can't even do that. And it's like a lot of people wouldn't have even gone if they had known their options and like what they were getting into beforehand. They would have taken another path.
Yeah. And sometimes for certain businesses in certain ways, it's the only path you can take.
Exactly.
Kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Just saw a video, couldn't stitch it, of a career coach explaining that boomers want to keep working, and like during the pandemic, a lot of them sat at home and were sad and realized that they wanted to keep working. I think there might be a cultural gap in what we think retirement is between like boomers and everybody else, because my dad, who is older than his dad was when he retired, and who is on the very tail end of the boomers, doesn't want to retire because he thinks retiring is just sitting around. He doesn't want to just sit around. And I was like, no, you can do whatever you want. You can, do art. You can build stuff. He likes to build stuff. You could read. He doesn't like to read. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. The point is that like the fruits of your labors are now entirely going to things that you want to be doing. And that's amazing. That's something everybody should want. But he told me that's not retirement. That's work. And I was like, excuse me? And he said that's work if you're still like building stuff or working on projects or something like that. You're still working. Like some people are rich enough that they can kind of do it at home for themselves and do what they want to do, but that's still work. You're not retired. He can't like imagine what he would want to do in retirement, and so therefore retirement is just sitting there. That's nuts. That's wild. That's especially wild because my grandfather specifically, he planned his retirement so that he could paint. He was a farmer and he wanted to paint, and he planned his retirement so that he could paint. Is it just my dad who reviews retirement as the encapsulation of laziness, or do all boomers lack some kind of creativity necessary to imagine what you would be doing with your time if your time and your labor and your energy were all your own?
That right there, actually, this brings up another thing, and it might be a culture thing for real, because hobbies, you never really hear about your grandparents' hobbies.
Really don't.
They don't have any hobbies. They're too busy giving their lives to their jobs. And also, if you enjoy doing something, basically back then, that wasn't normal. You were a weirdo. You were shunned. You're all that. And that kind of built a weird little repertoire for like, if you're not working, you're a lazy idiot, commie. And you have hobbies, you weirdo, you freak. Why don't you go somewhere? It's like
insane. And the young generations are waking up now, because it's just like they can tell that life should be more than just working for somebody else and then just throwing that all away. You can't enjoy the money that you make. It always has to go to somebody else.
Yep.
And you're working for somebody else. Your money's going to somebody else. It's just like, what is life at this point?
Yeah. So honestly, this is a cultural issue. That's what it really is, because retiring is laziness. That's a crazy take.
And I get like if you feel like it's laziness, but like there's other things that you can do with your time. You have the freedom to pretty much just do whatever and have a hobby. You can paint for people for free. You can pay people for donations. You can actually build a business and maybe like create some generational wealth right there to give your generations after you.
Like, dog, if I'm retiring, let me be lazy. I worked my entire life to make sure I couldn't have to work anymore.
Yep.
What do you mean? Also, my retirement plan is animals or video games. That's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. And if that's lazy, oh well, idiot.
It's crazy. Like there's so many things that you can do, and you can finally enjoy time with your family. Yeah. There's so many other things to do than just laziness.
Yeah. Also, be lazy. You earned it.
Exactly. And like life is short. At this point, you probably don't have that much time left on this earth. But just enjoy it.
Exactly. Sad. Very sad.
For real.
You may be starting to hear about the great wealth transfer, which is the process by which the baby boomers will basically die and pass their $90 trillion in assets down supposedly to millennials, Gen X, etc. However, a lot of baby boomers are on their way to assisted living now, and from there they'll likely be going to nursing homes, where the yearly cost to stay with either of these is somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000, sometimes more, and that's just the cost of living there. That doesn't include, anything incidental that they're doing or their medical bills or anything else. Split in wealth right now is that baby boomers currently own around roughly 52% of all of the money in our entire country, while millennials have 9.2%. I think a lot of people have to come to terms with the fact that a lot of people's parents are going to die penniless. I mean, mine did. Actually, I ended up paying for my father's storage units for several months until I could get them cleared out. And my dad may be somewhat of an exception, but I will tell you that a lot of people, he would have had money when he died, except that they tapped into his retirement and his insurance and everything. Basically, everything that he had saved up for if he died was used while he was alive because he had a heart transplant. I just think that we're underestimating the health crisis that's about to hit the baby boomers and what it's actually going to cost. And I think that a lot of people are going to be left with a lot less of that wealth than they initially anticipated. I left my life in Arizona to come back and take care of my father. And, even for a couple of years of full-time care, the way that experience drains you, it's hard to understand until you go through it. And I think that if there's people sitting out there saying, like, I will provide this care myself, it depends on your situation. I was all by myself taking care of my dad, and he wasn't supposed to be left alone at all, not even for 5 minutes. Again, that is kind of an exceptional situation. But the point is, what we're about to go through, if you have parents that are baby boomers, I mean, my parents have already passed, but what you are about to go through if you have parents that are baby boomers is very intense, and it's really hard. And the reason why people go into assisted living and nursing homes is because capitalism doesn't allow us to take care of even our children. And there's no exception made for your parents either. The way that we live right now, there's really no space. We can barely take care of ourselves. So, we're facing a pretty steep cliff.
And that's the thing about capitalism. It thrives off stuff like this, dying penniless.
Yep.
So since you die penniless, that person over there who's also penniless, like, oh, I gotta work harder and give my money to the person who is in charge of me. And then they do it, and then they like, oh, wait, I have no money, and then they die penniless, and it's a cycle. It sucks.
And it's designed to keep you in debt forever.
It is.
Because, that's insane that they charge pretty much just rent prices to be in assisted living. Yeah. And, they know what they're doing. That's actually insane. It should be a lot cheaper than rent. And it should not be anywhere near $100,000 a year. That's crazy just to take care of your parents.
It is. And then to die, it's easy. I was gonna say maybe it'd be cheaper to die than live. No, it's actually cheaper to live than to die, because if you die, you're spending thousands of dollars on a plot of land, on a funeral, for them to touch your body when you're dead, all that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then there's nothing you can do now. Honestly, and it costs too much money to be born either. So you're screwed out. Every phase of life, birth, living, death, you're screwed.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do.
Who can pay for all of this? It's actually ridiculous. Things that just happen, like birth and death, that right there should be just pretty much free.
Yeah, it should be free.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, because we need people to be born to even keep the world going. So, why are we paying for that when that child is going to grow up anyway and contribute to society? And then, you as a parent is still going to be contributing to the capitalism and everything for that child while they're growing, because you need formula and diapers and all of that from the very beginning. So it's
Yeah.
We're paying for it already.
Yeah, I guess that's why at a certain point people are just like, you know what, I'm just going to turn you to ash, turn me to ash, and throw my body into the wind because having a plot of land. I'm pretty sure they also move you around. They don't keep in the exact same spot, which is weird. So why am I paying for a plot of land if I'm not going to be there forever?
What the heck?
Depends on your contract or whatever. Like they can move you.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, only your headstones there actually.
No, that's insane.
Retirement in the US is not working, but there's a really obvious way to fix it, and that is we're all going to have to work longer. You might be thinking, I am years away from retirement, why should I worry about this? But really, in the future, our entire working life might look very different. It might mean working longer. From a personal perspective, it costs a lot of money to finance retirement, particularly as we're all, or most of us, are living longer and healthier lives. So financing maybe 30 years of retirement just is a really heavy lift financially. It's also bad for the macroeconomy. The cost of financing entitlements are going to become a huge financial strain for governments all over the world. It's also bad for the macroeconomy because it means fewer people are in the labor force. So it's no wonder people are already working longer and no longer retiring in their early mid-60s and starting to retire more into their later 60s. There's a lot of benefits to working longer. First, to your personal finances. One study estimates that just delaying retirement by 6 months is the equivalent of saving 1 percentage point less for 30 years. There are huge financial benefits to even working part-time well after 65. Also, working longer in a lot of ways is good for you. A component of healthy aging usually entails a sense of purpose and a lot of socialization. Things also work provides. Working can actually be an important part of healthy aging. It's such a good idea. There's only one problem. It is incredibly unpopular. And we've all seen the riots in France about this. Anytime a politician even hints at the idea of increasing the normal retirement age, everyone freaks out and they have to distance themselves from it. And there are good reasons why people are skeptical of the idea. First of all, while most of us are living longer and healthier lives, not everyone is. And some people have very physically demanding jobs and can't work as they get older. But that is not a reason that everyone gets to retire earlier. We can target those people with various policies and still allow them to retire earlier while the rest of us retire later. Another serious concern is age discrimination. A lot of employers are reluctant to hire older workers, in part because they cost more and are presumed, although it's not necessarily true, to be less technologically adept, or they just are more likely to let those employees go. So there's also a way around this too, which is we can use technology to empower people to work part-time, work remotely. And that way employers have the option of using older workers and making use of their expertise in more flexible and creative ways. And to be honest, with a shrinking labor force from an aging population, they're not going to have much choice but to get over their age discrimination because they're going to be desperate for workers. So you might be thinking, well, then how long am I going to have to work? Well, there's a saying that 70 is the new 50. But 80 is still 80. So right now, people retire maybe in their mid-60s typically. Maybe it's not unrealistic to think that maybe we're going to push that up about 10 years, maybe work into our mid-70s. Retirement in the
That's old.
I get out of my face. Get out of my face right now. You know darn well that these people in the higher ups, they are so egotistical of themselves. That's why they're still in here. They're not going to use technology to help out the older workforce. No, they're just going to get rid of them and use technology to get rid of the younger workforce too.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
AI.
You know that. Don't talk to us like you don't know that.
It's so stupid. Yeah, there are benefits to working longer, whatever, but it's not ideal to have to do that.
No. Once again, as you said, some jobs are physical. Yeah. And that's the most jobs that people can really work. Blue collar jobs are really high up because that's some things that people can only work.
Yep.
Not a lot of people are smart. What is this? What is this take? What is this? Are you serious?
That's what corporate's gonna tell you.
Yeah, this is feeling very corporate. Yeah, we should raise the age. No, also France. I'm mad with them. They're the people who kind of ended lives because someone was taking all the money and telling them work more, work harder. They'll do it again. Don't think they won't.
That's crazy.
No, yeah, I'd be really mad too if some rich person who can retire legit tomorrow, they decide not to because they want control still, would say, hey, you should work more.
Exactly. Or for the people that actually want to work, maybe like don't force them to retire or like raise the age of forced retirement. I don't know how that works, but like, yeah, we shouldn't have to be working that long.
No.
It should be optional.
Yeah, and don't say like, "Oh, we're going to raise it because we think you should." We
Exactly.
think no. Ask the people first.
Ask the people.
And everyone's saying no, so don't do it.
Exactly.
I don't mean to alarm anyone, but I do study the future of work, and I think this is more concerning than we even realize. I couldn't fit it in the screenshot, but up above it said that 99% of Gen Zers were concerned about their ability to contribute to retirement. So that's 99% of the people that are turning 27 this year or younger. And I think even more concerning than that is the number of Gen Xers and Boomers that said they didn't feel prepared. And I say that because back in only 2002, only 0.5% of the workforce was someone who was 75 or older. In 2032, it's estimated to be almost up at 2%. And while that seems like a small percentage, this is about 800,000 people, and this is 3.3 million people. 75 or older. I find this really concerning for two big reasons. The first being is that we're not financially prepared to take care of aging boomers, and they are not financially prepared enough to retire on their own. My other concern is the bottleneck that this is going to cause because Gen X has been patiently waiting their turn to take on some of these senior positions, and there are going to be 3 million boomers that aren't leaving. And I think a lot of these people will end up being partial retirees where they leave their full-time kind of corporate job and take on something a little bit easier. But also, the workforce is going to start looking more like our government. And if that scares you as much as it scares me, I would recommend opening a Roth IRA, voting for the right person in November and in every single election, and following me for more updates.
And then the tariffs came.
Especially, this is why there's going to be like no jobs left if people aren't retiring. That's going to suck.
It's going to suck most definitely.
It's actually crazy. And a lot of people that are around our age probably haven't even started on a retirement plan at this point. A lot of people are like 30 and 40 and still haven't had anything in a 401k or Roth IRA or whatever. And these companies better be matching the contributions. They can match like 4% or whatever, and they will put money into the retirement as long as you are. And that way you can like max it out easier. So like, I don't get why a lot of these companies aren't matching.
They're like, nah, we don't want to actually do anything for you. Also, you're fired. Here's a robot to replace you.
That's what happened to me. It's insane.
Like, what?
Exactly. What's the point?
I'm tired of it.
You don't just quit that horrible job already and just start a business at this point or something.
For real. Also, they're not even hiring people anymore. They always saying there's a labor workforce issue, and then they want to train AI off of people's work. But hey, there's no one to work yet. So what are you training off of? Thin air?
Yep.
Come on.
At this point.
With millions of people who have nothing for retirement.
We have a huge retirement savings crisis in the US, especially for women. This is when you see older women like re-entering the workforce or having to push back retirement or like not even being able to retire at all. This is why it's so important to learn about personal finance and investing, especially as a woman, because Social Security just isn't what it used to be. Ageism in the workforce is very real. It's hard to get a job now. Imagine trying to get a job when you're in your 60s and maybe your skill set isn't as relevant on the market anymore. Lastly, you're just going to be so tired and so burned out. Make sure we're getting you set up. The earlier you start, the more powerful it's going to be. Even if we're not investing a ton, anything is more than nothing. If you don't know where to start, which accounts you need, how much to be investing, or all of this just feels super overwhelming, but you're ready to learn, I'm hosting a free intro to investing class this Wednesday, so let's get you up to speed.
No. No. That's what I'm going to say. No.
Nope.
I don't want to. Truly, as someone said in like one of the earlier comments, a lot of people are saying their retirement plan is just to die. At this point, it seems like that's the only thing you can do.
At this point, like, what else is there? And like, this is another thing that they use about like the skill set, like, because the job market, the jobs, all of that, the skills are evolving, and like you might not have relevant degree or skills anymore. Like your degree apparently can expire, and it's insane. They want to do that so they can keep you in college, going back to school every single time you graduate because you need more education. And then it's like, it's just keeping you in debt.
Actually, I had a coworker who was like old lady. She has at least around her 60s. She was taking care of her mother, who was, way older if she's in her 60s. Basically, this is her mother. She was working at a grocery store as a cashier, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I want to try to get a different job, but they said that my degree is no longer viable because there's different times changed, all that yada yada yada." She has a degree still. She went to college. She knows something.
Exactly.
And like, bro, I don't know where she went now, but like, it's crazy to me.
So now you gotta constantly be coming out of pocket or taking out loans or whatever to pay for certifications, college courses, degrees, all of that. And it's a lot. And they charge so much for all of it.
Yeah, how about so like even on Coursera is pretty cool. You can learn stuff for free sometimes, but like it does not matter because I can't take the test unless I'm paying like $30 to like $20 every time. It's like, oh hey, you failed it, pay me again.
Yep, and it won't be recognized, none of it. So it's like, and it's crazy because again, you can have a lot of more quality education sometimes online, and it's like that doesn't matter though because you didn't spend thousands of dollars to go to school. And it's like, but I still know something and I can apply that.
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to blind hiring. Let's hire people off their value, please. Keep doing this. Let's start doing that.
Yeah, for you.
Ridiculous. That's all I gotta say because this video is running really long.
Well, thank you for watching the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video, and please get us to 1,000 subscribers.
Bye.
Bye.